I will take your listing from under 60% full to over 90% booked in this one short-ish video. Over the last 10 years, I have discovered exactly how Airbnb decides if you're going to be on the first page of search and what guests want to see before they decide to book with you. My name is Sean Rocky Geach. This is the largest YouTube channel ever created for short-term rental education. My students have made over $1 billion in the Airbnb space, so hit that subscribe button today and join the movement. I would love to add you to that $1 billion Hall of Fame. Airbnb family, welcome back. This video will give you a complete roadmap to a full calendar. Try to identify where you think your listing is weak and then use the resource that I'm going to give you at the end of this video to go through that and clear the gaps on your listing and get back to getting bookings. Step 1 in this roadmap that is guaranteed to get you 90% occupied is market fit. What do we mean by market fit? Well, your listing may not be the right product for the customer in the first place. And I know this could be really heartbreaking to realize, but imagine that you have a 6-bedroom house that's super beautiful, but the only people that ever travel to town are individual travelers. Like, for example, your house could be just outside the headquarters for some insurance company or some other company where they bring a person in 2 or 3 days at most to do some training and then they send them home. And that company could service you hundreds of reservations for 1 or 2 people 3 days at a time. But your 6-bedroom house can sleep 14 people and it's $1,000 a night. Nobody coming to that headquarters is going to pay $1,000 a night. Now, don't worry. There's an easy way to find out what sells in your market. You can just go to Airbnb, search your city, and then search I'm flexible. Now for you, if this is your Airbnb account and your city and you do this a lot, you probably should go into incognito mode and search for your city and see what Airbnb puts at the top of search for your area under I'm flexible when you search the date parameters for say any week. Now what this does is Airbnb finds all of the best listings in that area that are most likely to book from some random person, and they curate you a listing feed. That listing feed will have a lot of commonalities. If we go to Miami, we'll see that there's a lot of stuff on the water or a lot of stuff with a pool. If we go to Austin, we might see a lot of eclectic stuff or maybe stuff on the lake again still. But if we go to Chicago, we'll start to see high-rise condos on the 50th or 70th floor. The stuff that people are booking city to city will change. For example, one of my students from Dubai that we've referenced in a couple previous videos, there's a property that overlooks the Burj Khalifa, and any listing with a Burj Khalifa view gets all the bookings. So you'll notice that when you search incognito mode in Dubai, that all the listings in that area, all of the windows face the Burj Khalifa. So if you ever picked up a property in that building, don't get the other view. You're gonna regret it. There are 3 general categories to consider when looking at market fit. Listing type, like a house, apartment, treehouse, bubble dome. Listing size, how many people can I sleep? And then listing style and quality. There are listings that are cheap but large that people can get at an affordable price. There are listings that are expensive and large and luxury and that people want to spend money to have an experience. There are styles that are easy to settle into for monthly stays, but there are styles that are completely wild and maybe even themed like Kissimmee, Florida, Marvel or Disney themed, that people can live out their wildest experiences when they go to Disney World. Did you know that Disney World has ORD like Orlando in it and Disneyland has LA in it like Los Angeles? Way cool way. Disney World, Disneyland. These 3 categories all come together to answer one big question, which is, am I servicing a genuine need in my area? If you have a property that is too big and too expensive, you're not servicing the need for the smaller cheap listing, or vice versa. And to do market research, to simply look on Airbnb to see what they're pushing, we can identify what Airbnb believes our local need is. This is an oversimplification for my market research techniques. I do have a whole playlist on market research on this channel. You're welcome to watch that. If you're about to start a listing, absolutely watch that video. Otherwise, if you already have a property and you don't think that you've got the right style or fit for your market, watch my playlist on interior design. I'll put that in the corner and down below in the description. We'll also have additional resources for you at the end of the video, like I promised. Step 2 to get all of the bookings is to be ready for the algorithm. Now, this is a huge, big conversation. The algorithm uses tons of information to decide if you're going to get on the first page. The first thing about the algorithm, and probably the oldest advice I've given on this channel, is the concept of a Boolean search, an all or nothing search on Airbnb. If someone searches for 8 guests and a pool and dog friendly, and you can't sleep 8 people and have a pool and are dog friendly, you don't show up. What happens if somebody searches for 13 guests, pool, hot tub, kitchen, AC, gym, library, catering service, whatever, to the moon, right? If you don't check every single box, you don't show up in search. There are some cool ways to play with this to find underserviced opportunities in markets. For example, having an EV charger and being dog friendly in Austin is like something you absolutely have to do to get booked, because every hipster with a dog and a Tesla needs that when they travel to Austin, right? The more amenities you can check off, the more you'll show up in search. And now that Airbnb has added a king-size bed to that checkbox of amenities, you absolutely need to have a king bed, because only half the listings on Airbnb have one. And that is a big deal to almost all travelers. Get a king bed and or update your listing to say that you have one, to make sure that you show up in search when someone clicks that checkbox. It's a big deal. 2.2 for the algorithm is completion. Airbnb has an internal term that they call levers, and my market manager told me about this years ago. Everything that you do that Airbnb asks you to do is a version of a lever. So completing your description, the house rules, check-in guide, all of your settings like prices, weekend prices, cleaning fee, last-minute discounts, early bird discounts, having more than 8 photos, having descriptions in those photos, everything that you do that gives your listing more of a sense of completion, Airbnb thinks that you are more compliant. And if you are more compliant on Airbnb than every other host, then you must be a better host than every other host. Airbnb is going to think so, and up the rank you go. But you can do everything right. Technically, you can have photos, you can have a description, but it all could be ugly, blurry, dark photos, lorem ipsum, adsum, whatever in your descriptions. You're not actually saying anything. People can't understand your listing. It doesn't look good. And thus 2.3 for the algorithm is funnel feedback data. This is the newest stuff, guys. This is the newest, coolest stuff. Airbnb is evolving to be more like Amazon. Hot take. But a product funnel will look at engagement at every single point of the funnel. Did they click on your listing? If they didn't like your listing title, hero photo, something like that. If they clicked on your listing and left, they didn't like your top 5 photos, something like that. If they clicked on your listing, stuck around for a little while, clicked around and left, then all of your photos might have been too redundant or poorly taken, or your listing description was unfriendly, something like that. If they didn't send you a message, they weren't interested enough in your listing to find out more information. Yes, Airbnb tracks whether or not somebody sends you a message. That's an engagement. So in summary, once your listing is completed and Airbnb thinks your listing is ready and it goes to market with your listing, they want to see that guests like your listing. That initial feedback data, even before you get a booking, Airbnb cares about. If people are treating your listing like it's trash, even before you get a booking or don't, Airbnb will slowly lower you in the algorithm and favor other listings that have better engagement data. So you want to make sure that your listing is primed for customer engagement, and that's why I need to tell you about Realgorithm. A couple years ago, the sky was falling, Airbnb bust happened, everybody was going out of business, listings were lit on fire, figuratively speaking. So I created a course and webinar program called Realgorithm to get down to what you can do to make your listing the best listing ever. And this course does have a once in a while live webinar. And even though the course has been for sale for a couple years, we keep updating the content and we keep doing new live webinars. I can meet with you in this live webinar and go over your listing and what you can change to create a better listing. And you can take that course with you and update your listing and all of your listings and make tons and tons of more money for the rest of your life. The algorithm constantly changes and we need to stay in front of it. So to master the algorithm and get some time with me where we can go over your listing, join my webinar January 14th at 7 p.m. Central, and I will go over your listings with you live in person to make sure that you get the best results out of the algorithm for now and forever. It's what I'm going to do for you January 14th at 7 p.m. There's a link down below to register, and it's only $80. If you get one more day of bookings ever again in the rest of your life because of that webinar, it's going to pay for itself. So I'll see you there January 14th. And 2.4 for the algorithm on this video is booking velocity. Airbnb likes to track whether or not you're getting bookings. So after all that engagement and all of that fun stuff, they want to see that bookings are hitting your calendar. This is why pricing strategy actually matters with your algorithmic placement. Algorithmic placement, that was fun. If you have a low price today when your listing is brand new and you get a booking today, you're at 100% occupancy from listing day one. Congratulations. And that's why I go really low on my prices sometimes when a listing is brand new. I've got this cool arcing motion that my prices make when a listing's brand new to maybe 2 months out, and I talk about that in my pricing strategy videos. But getting your listing full and having future bookings on your calendar, especially when you're new, is extremely important because Airbnb is looking for context of your listing's value. For everything you offer, what price do people pay, and are they happy about that price? This develops something that I call a value index. Airbnb is going to look at your listing against its competition and your listing against your previous bookings and try to determine what it thinks your listing should be worth. And if you're priced above that price, they will think that you're a bad price. If you're priced below that price, they think that you're a good price. And what's great about getting great reviews is they give you a little flexibility on the upside, because Airbnb wants you to make more money because they have a service fee that they collect, so they want you to have a shot at higher booking prices. But we need to start to get future bookings so Airbnb will have a more optimistic view of your listing, give you that higher value index, which allows you to get better performance at higher prices. Isn't that cool? And because your future calendar goes all the way into forever, Airbnb doesn't look at future occupancy as a final number. You could be 20% occupied for the next 6 months, and that's okay. If you're trailing occupancy, like everything from yesterday and beyond into the past, is say 95% occupied, Airbnb will think that you're an amazing listing. They'll even give you this rare find badge or other things like that, because your trailing occupancy is your final occupancy, and Airbnb does care about that number. And like we said, with the value index, that feedback loop of data, whether or not guests are happy with your listing, yes, your reviews do absolutely matter, and recent bad reviews will do bad for your listing. Any bad reviews, yes, but there is an element of what we call temporality, and we'll talk about that in the future. And moving on, step 3 in a roadmap to a full calendar is the funnel itself. We talked about this a little bit because it's married to the algorithm itself, but let's dive a little bit deeper here, because the funnel affects the customer. So we're going from Airbnb related stuff to customer related stuff. Let's take that journey. So from the top, and I mean it, top of funnel is first page impressions. How many times are you shown to someone on the first page? And then how many views, how many clicks do you get? And between those two numbers is a conversion percentage. 100 first page impressions, 1 view, that's a 1% conversion to view. Not to be confused with your booking conversion percentage, that's another one. But once someone is a view on your listing, they want to see quality of view. So bounce percentage or bounce rate, the number of times that people click away in just a few seconds or less, is a very important metric that every website uses. They want to make sure that that click is a relevant click. If someone clicks on your listing and then immediately closes the box, that means that they regret clicking for some reason. And that typically has to do with your very first 5 photos on desktop. If you ever click on an Airbnb listing on a desktop computer, you'll see what I mean. That one hero photo goes to the left, and then there's 4 other photos 2 through 5, that create a collage, a 5-photo collage. And those 5 photos need to do a good job of keeping someone on your listing. They should be an all-encompassing view of your listing. We talk about this in Re-Algorithm, by the way. We talk about your title and the fact that your title actually is a subtitle. Kind of weird, but your title doesn't matter nearly as much for getting clicks as you think it does, and your title shouldn't be the name of something. Real quick tip, your title should have amenities in there, because when someone sees the hero photo, in bold it'll say home in Denver, and then after home in Denver, in softer tone text, it'll have the title, and the title should say that you've got like king bed, hot tub stuff. It shouldn't say the dreamy house. The dreamy house, no one cares. They want to see amenities in there. They want to see a reason to click. So change your title to be amenities heavy. Pro tip. But again, we're back on the page. We've already clicked on the listing. We see the 5 photos. What do we see next? Well, we see the total price to book in the calendar section. We see the host's name, photo, total number of listing reviews and review quality, and then below there we see the description. This first impression is going to be important. This landing page is so important for that bounce percentage. We want people to have a reason to stick around and stay. 6 out of every 10 guests, they click the photos first. Before anything else, they go right to the photos and they rip through, because Airbnb is a visually driven platform for unique listings. This isn't a hotel website. This is a place for one-of-one listings. Listings with character and personality and color and nuance and stuff. People want to see this stuff. So 6 out of 10 people want to click through the listing to find out everything that they can, which is why in Re-Algorithm and other places I talk about how important the photos are to show all of the amenities, to show things like your coffee station, to show that you have decaf and tea and everything else, to show that you are well prepared and that you're thoughtful and that your guests are going to love it there. You could write it all in the description, but chances are they're not going to read it. They'll see it in the photos though, I guarantee it. If you have a hot tub and it's not in your photos, why did you even buy the hot tub? You guys get that, right? And this concept of having a good photo reel, interesting photos, not overly redundant where you take 10 photos of the living room all in a row where people have to click through them and people become disinterested. Making sure that you do a good job with your photo journey and make sure that your description is written in the correct way that gets people to keep reading in an engaging way. This leads to hang time on a listing. So hang time on a listing is the total number of seconds that a window is open for. Bounce rate is how many times people click away in a number of seconds or less, and hang time is the amount of time that someone is on your site or site visit duration. The longer someone sticks and clicks around, the more interesting your listing looks. It's like watch time on this video. If you've watched this video this long, by the way, you obviously care about your Airbnb business, and I congratulate you. Not many people do this much research to do a good job on their business. Any business, let alone something that is considered low barrier to entry like Airbnb. So not only congratulations, but thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you watching this long, YouTube thinks that I'm good at this. It's almost as if you liked the video too, which if you do, thank you for that. And beyond hang time, my friends, is engagements. And engagements have, again, a sense of temporality. Let's talk about this. Temporality, or a time-based metric inside of an algorithm, gives more weight to something when it happens immediately. So for example, if somebody wishlisted your property, or sent you a message, or shared the listing with someone, these are all three activities that someone could do that aren't booking your property. But all three imply interest. And Airbnb cares about that. They want to know which listings are interesting. Because remember, some listings are like $10,000 a night. Not everyone can afford it, but masses of people will upvote listings in this way, and Airbnb will know which castles are the coolest, so they'll put that castle first, and then that castle will get booked eventually by whoever is the money bags that can afford a $10,000 per night listing. But as time goes by, as season turns to season, if people don't send you messages constantly, if people aren't sharing your listing or adding it to wish lists, then that data, as it gets older, the wish lists of months gone by no longer matter. You're no longer interesting today because that wish list ad was temporarily relevant. And that's the definition of temporality. It is temporary. Pro tip, I do not recommend you add your listing to a bunch of wish list groups out there and try to get them added in when you don't need it. Save that for a rainy day. If your listing is doing just fine without everybody adding it to a wish list, don't go and do it. Just wait for slow season or something like that. All of this that we just talked about can be boiled down to this concept of a meaningful click. Every click on your listing can be meaningful or low quality. And Airbnb has moved from sheer volume-based view data to meaningful view or meaningful click data. They want to see real people really checking out your listing, really engaging, because it's really easy to game click volume. And people did it, and that's why it's broken. So here we are. And then of course, at the end of this, you get your conversion percentage, which is after somebody clicks and goes through all this cool stuff, did they book? And if they booked, you get a win, and it's on your calendar, unless they cancel, and hopefully they don't. And Airbnb thinks you're good because you have a booking. Congratulations. But the funnel concept doesn't end there. Remember how I said the funnel is where we transfer from what Airbnb cares about to what guests care about? Well, let's get to the guest side of the funnel. Number one is clarity. Confused people don't make decisions. So your photos, it would be really good if they were concise. They were all shot at the same level, same height, kind of like that same angle across the room, not angled down or angled up, nothing wonky like this. Make sure that your photos are good. And by good, I mean consistent. The color grading is clean and clear. Your whites are all the same shade of white around all of your photos, which is a color balancing thing. Almost any photographer can do this for you. But surprisingly, photographers don't do everything, because beyond the clarity in the photos and the consistency, we want to see effort. This is the big one within the last couple of years, my friend. If you're gonna write one thing down right now, big E-F-F-O-R-T, effort. People are getting smarter by the day online. Kids are born with phones in their hand. On the way out of the womb, basically, they've got a phone in their hand. And because of this, they can tell who's a fake online. They can tell who actually cares or who's not doing anything at all. And so you could look at a listing that looks really clean, cut, and good, but it's lacking so many things. There's no plates on the table. There's no plants anywhere in the house. There's no artwork, God forbid. The TV is blank. It doesn't show anything on the screen, which I like to put Disney Plus on the TV when I take my photos. And the bedrooms are not adorned with any sorts of throw blankets or cool extra pillows or anything. The fact that the listing is blank, aside from just good general quality, is a sign of low effort. And a good listing, even though it's kind of nice, that shows a low effort in every other way, says that the host does not care about its guests. A person will see the photos and go, you know what, this is cool, but something's wrong here. I just feel like this listing is kind of like an investment for some guy who's trying to do the minimum. They will go to the reviews and look for signs that something is up, that something is not quite right. And they'll often find this place is okay. If you don't want the host to care about you, come and stay. It's just really generic. If the place shows a lot of effort, if you've got actual books on the coffee table, if you've got plants and lamps and knickknacks and good art and Signs of character and personality and love in the home, like a coat rack with a hat and a coat in the photos like I showed in that last video, if you're doing stuff like this that shows effort, it builds trust with the guest. And this is a big part of whether or not somebody will make a booking with you, because there's a lot of good listings, but there's not a lot of good hosts. And you know what? It's after all of this normally that they'll actually check the price. They will check the price after the photos. And when they look at the photos, they'll go, I don't know if I've made up my mind about this listing yet for consideration, so let me go to the reviews. Then from there, they will go to the price and actually make a determination if they like everything they see for the price. On Airbnb, no one's budget is absolute. You can get more money than your neighbors. Absolutely can. You can even collect a higher cleaning fee. This is controversial, and I teach this mostly in private. And why in private? So if you have questions about this, DM me. But if your listing looks amazing, you can add more profit to your cleaning fee. And guests won't understand what this means, and they'll get mad at me for saying it, but there's a psychological element to this. You can add profit to your cleaning fee if your listing is a must-have listing. And we'll talk about that in private. But that is just one line item in Airbnb's final price for the listing. And a guest will be looking at your listing, and likely other ones, and make a determination on whether or not they like your listing at your price. The perceived value is how well you took the photos, how well you did the description, all that stuff. Their perception of your listing becomes absolute value. What you think your listing is worth is not what it's worth anymore. You could have made an amazing listing. It could have a hot tub. It could have zebra in the backyard. And if people don't see that value because you didn't market it the right way, their perceived value becomes absolute in the moment that they make this decision. So now your listing is one of 4 or 5 tabs opened online. They're looking at yours. They're looking at that shoe Airbnb from that nursery rhyme. They're looking at a castle outside of Naples somewhere, just outside of Mount Vesuvius. They're looking at all this stuff, and they have to make a decision on which one they like. And they're going back and forth between the tabs, looking at the reviews, the prices, and they're hemming and they're hawing. They're hemming and hawing, and now you have one last chance to get a booking here, and it's called a call to action. You can put in your listing description and in the description of your photos calls to action that encourage someone to send you a message. No, not to book. God forbid, don't ask them to book now. That's a little committal, don't you think? People go, I don't know if I want to book yet, but I'll send them a message. And what's really good about getting someone to send you a message is they are deeper in your sales funnel. That's why Airbnb recognizes this as a significant metric of engagement. If you can get someone to send you a message, they're like 10 times more likely to book. I don't actually have a stat for that, but 96% of stats are made up anyway. And so in that case, the message gets them deeper in the funnel. They get to talk to you. You become a real person. You're humanizing. You're going to be nice and complimentary and ask them questions, and they're going to enjoy talking with you. And the Mount Vesuvius Castle is still just some silent listing down the way that they've never talked to. And now you get the booking over the shoe and the castle because you wrote calls to action in your description to send you a message and in your photos. So that way people go, oh yeah, let me just message that guy or that girl or that person. And it's these little incremental moves forward towards the sale that the guest doesn't know you're trapping them into purchasing that gets you a little closer to making the money. If you want to learn how to write calls of action into your description or into your photos, if you want to learn every psychological trick that I use to trick people into buying my listings, Realgorithm absolutely is where you want to go to learn all of my coolest techniques on the algorithm. Again, listings in the description, probably a QR code somewhere because, you know, it's 2025 now, and it is January 14th. At 7 p.m. Central, and it is only $80. Again, you get 1 day booked from Realgorithm for the rest of your life. It will pay for itself and then some. I'm pretty sure your listing is worth more than $80. If you don't think so, I'll convince you it's worth more than $80. You got to think of yourself a little higher than that, my friends. And number 5. Yes, there's a number 5 in your roadmap to a full calendar. It is the performance feedback loop of your listing. Airbnb's taken everything that we've talked about and made one gigantic snapshot of your listing and put a stamped price on it. Your value index. Your listing is worth $400 on a Tuesday. But when Airbnb gives you a booking and you do good or you do bad, that feedback loop goes back in and Airbnb will then adjust. They'll go, you know what? You weren't worth $600. The guest wasn't happy at $600, but they were happy at $500. So you've got this review density, like a 5-star review density at different tranches of price. And Airbnb will make a decision on whether or not to reinforce price levels in their value index for your listing based on this feedback. Isn't that kind of cool? So if you reach for the stars on price and Airbnb gives you a 5-star review, Airbnb will go, hey, this was a great transaction at a great price. We'll make a lot of money with this guy or girl, and let's keep it moving. Let's keep this gravy train rolling. And to give you the picture with as much clarity as I can on this topic of performance-based feedback, it is everything that you've ever created in a snapshot against your reviews, review quality, review percentage left. If people leave reviews less than 50% of the time, that's actually a bad metric. It is your total trailing occupancy. If people are not booking your listing, then your listing must not be interesting. It is the temporal and recent wish list data. All of these are temporal. Your trailing occupancy, your most recent reviews, the most recent interest data like messages and wish list ads, all of this has a sense of recency. It's all weighted to yesterday. The yesterday is the most important. Your reviews a year ago or your occupancy a year ago is less important. So what you did yesterday is more important than last year. And then adverse actions. Airbnb can put adverse actions on your account if they think that you've done bad stuff to guests, if they think that you're being shady, if they think you're violating some of their terms of service. They can shadow ban or throttle the views on one of your listings. They can suspend you altogether. This is the stuff that we try to avoid, but alas, Airbnb is Airbnb, and they can be kind of like the KGB at times instead of the Airbnb at times. So when you take this model for maximizing Airbnb bookings and apply it to your listing, try to remember your listing is a living, breathing piece of your brand. Be loud, stand out, make mistakes, take some risks, get experimental, do stuff that other people would never do, because this industry still has a level of exploration in it, and you can do stuff that other people would be too scared to do, and you can define a type of personality for your brand that no one else would dare live, and hospitality is a lot about the experience. So if you're brave enough to give somebody an experience that no one else can give, you'll make all the money, or at least a good chunk of it, for the people that care about the experience that you're offering. And just as important as that, have fun. No one likes a crabby host. You will see in my free content that I try to teach people what is possible, what they can do, and also how to do it with techniques that are designed for a wider audience. But when people come to me for coaching and cracking Superhost, they'll come to me as an individual with individual skills, drawbacks, strengths, weaknesses, and I will work with them to find out what they can do that will give them specifically results that no one else can get. This type of coaching is far more advanced and far more nuanced and much more powerful than anything I could give for free ever on a YouTube video. And so, my friends, if you want to take your Airbnb business to the next level with one-on-one coaching from yours truly, then DM me on Instagram at Airbnb Automated, or click the link down below to learn more about cracking Superhost, where my students, yes, they have made over $1 billion on Airbnb with my coaching. And we're gonna keep that gravy train rolling too. And additionally, for more of my thoughts on Airbnb in 2024, 2025, watch this video next. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through to the end. You are my favorite people. And as always, my friends, I will see you on the other side.